Hello and welcome to this week's episode of For the Love of Chiropractic. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Freeman, and this is the 51st episode of the show, and I'm super excited to share this show with you. The reason is the entire content for this show came from a visit that I recently had when I was sitting in a doctor's office. And we got talking about chiropractors and chiropractic offices and some of the different common mistakes that I have heard about and witnessed in my decades of being a practicing chiropractor as well as a practice coach and consultant. So let's get started. Welcome to another episode of For the Love of Chiropractic. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Freeman. I've been in practice for over 30 years, and I continue to work in $1 million practice that I built, ran, and sold. I've taught, lectured, and coached our profession, and helped so many chiropractors build the practice and the life of their dreams. And now, I want to help you do the same. So here's today's show. As I said in the introduction, today's show is going to be all about 7 common mistakes that doctors make when it comes to their patients. But before we get started, I want to say welcome back. Welcome to the 51st show. To our long-term listeners and our newer listeners, thank you for being part of the show. I hope you'll subscribe so you never miss a single episode, because next week's show, the 52nd, is going to be an absolute do not miss episode, because it'll be the 1-year 52nd episode of the show. But today's show is pretty darn special also. As I said, this came from me sitting in a doctor's office and chatting with the doctor about chiropractors and chiropractic offices. And what we came up with was very simply a list of things that so many doctors do that just tear down the patient's results and the positive feeling the patients have about the doctor and the practice, as well as chiropractic in general. So, in no particular order, the first one that doctors very often do is not properly explain exactly what the problem is to the patient and exactly how you're going to help them. Now, depending on the education level of the person, as well as their level of interest and the type of personality they have, really depends on how much detail to go into. But explaining to them how the body is supposed to work, what occurred that their body is no longer working the way that it should, and then the domino effect, the cascade reaction that happens that leads from the malfunctioning of this system all the way into the beginnings of degeneration and then the onset of pain and symptoms, and how you're going to reverse that and remind them that symptoms go away first and then real healing can occur. So many doctors don't do that, and they get frustrated, they being the doctor. You get frustrated, we all get frustrated, when the patients don't follow through with what's been recommended because we know it's in their best interest. Why does that happen? Because we just didn't explain to them in enough detail, in plain, simple English. Nerves going out and nerves coming back, not afferent and efferent. From the top down, not superior to inferior. And one of my favorites to help doctors with is that, that little hole that the nerve comes out of in between the bones? Yeah, that's called a little hole that the nerve comes out of. It's not really called a foramina in between the 2 vertebral segments. You don't need to use the big vocabulary unless it's a medical provider you're speaking to, and then they appreciate hearing that from you. Okay, so that's one of the things. The second one is when the doctors or your office are not respectful of the patient's time. Are you really doing your best to take care of each person to the level that they need to be taken care of? I believe you are. While still be respectful of that patient's time and of the patients who are waiting to see you. The patients who are sitting in your reception area, or your waiting room, if you call it that. The patients who are sitting in your hot seats, if you have those in your office. when you're then telling a joke or swapping stories or giggling and laughing with a patient about something, absolutely, we need to be friendly with our patients, not friends. We need to be friendly with our patients. We need to be approachable. We need to be real people and still be the doctor, but not wasting their time. I know so many doctors who love talking politics with their patients, and I don't know why. Because you're not going to change anybody's mind about politics. And if you're on the same page the patient is about politics regarding a particular candidate, well, you're already on the same page. What are you talking about? You're just agreeing with things that you both agree on. So you're not debating. And you wouldn't want to get into a debate because nobody's going to change anybody's mind about anything anyway. So politics, I believe, is one of the things that has no place in the chiropractic office, because very often patients are listening to you with a smile on their face, and what they're really thinking is, oh my God, I need to get out of here. I got to go pick up my kids. I've got to go to the grocery store. I've got to get to work. I need to get home. They have 17 other things that are going on with their day, as opposed to us. We're there all day, and our whole day is to take care of the patients, to be with them. But again, we're just one of 17 things that they need to get done today. We're one stop in their long list of things they need to do. So chatting about things that are not related to their chiropractic care, keep that to a minimum. We want to be absolutely respectful of their time. A third common mistake that doctors make, or the doctor's office makes, is not taking care of any money issues up front and straightforward with the patient. I don't think you should ever be spending the patient's money before you've told them how much it's going to cost them. I think it's incredibly important that they know the cost of the examination when you're doing an examination, if it's not a complimentary exam. I think it's absolutely necessary that you tell them the total cost to them of the x-rays that you may be taking or any other diagnostic testing you may be doing before you do it. And the same is true with any and all treatments and therapies that get added or sprinkled in along the way. Very often, doctors begin with adjusting and then perhaps add electric stim and then perhaps add traction and then perhaps add in therapeutic exercises. There's some typical routine that you do in your office as you progress patients through care, and that's awesome and terrific. What's not okay is to just add those things in, and then the patient gets to the front desk that day or at the end of the week, or maybe not for several weeks, and suddenly finds out that they've accrued a balance because the additional services that you're providing had an additional copay or fee that they didn't know they were responsible for. That tears down the person's trust in you. You're spending their money without consulting them, and that's just not fair. And none of us would like that if that happened to us as well. Imagine you go to a restaurant and have a phenomenal meal. You order appetizers, you order the main course, and the waiter or waitress comes over at the meal and says, "We'd like to bring you dessert." Well, can we see the menu? No, we don't really want dessert. No, we really want to bring you dessert. It will top the meal off perfectly. Well, okay. And then you come to find out that it was a house specialty and they charge an extra $50 for dessert. How do you feel about that? You weren't told. You were simply told, "We want to bring you dessert." Maybe you thought it was on the house, maybe not, but now all of a sudden you're being asked to pay for it after the fact. Just doesn't feel right, does it? And just to prove this point, I know there are different jurisdictions that have even been considering requiring all healthcare facilities to give patients what's called a fair estimate before they provide any care. What's it going to cost so that there are no surprises? And I believe some jurisdictions have adopted it and others have not. But why wait? You know the right thing to do. Tell the patient what they need, why they need it, okay, and then, yes, here's what it's going to cost. Not just for today, but all the way through to get you healthy where you need to be. And now we're on to the fourth common mistake that I hear doctors make. They overpromise and underdeliver. What do I mean by that? They tell the person that they believe that their restorative capability is beyond what they think is possible in the amount of time that they're saying it should be done. I think we absolutely need to provide our patients with a path forward, with a vision of the future of where they can go and a reasonable amount of time of when they will be able to get there. But to overpromise and underdeliver makes you look bad, makes your practice look bad, gives you a bad reputation, and frankly, sullies the entire chiropractic profession. Now, we all know we're never allowed to say the words, "I promise." But to say things like, if you continuing improving the way you have been, I suspect and expect that by Christmas, you'll be doing blah, 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 and I'm recording this in November, or by next spring, you'll be back on the golf course for somebody who's a post-traumatic back injury and had to have surgery and needs a lot of rehab. Those are reasonable expectations and a seed to plant as you're going along. To tell that post-traumatic back surgery patient that they'll be back on the golf course before Christmas, well, that's just not fair. You're giving the patient unrealistic expectations and making yourself look bad. And of course, the reverse is true also. You don't want to underpromise and underestimate the body's restorative capabilities. The body always wants to heal, but it does it on its timeline. Maybe it's going to take a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year and a half, 2 years. I don't know for sure, so I don't know if you do either. But if you know for sure the body's going to heal, draw the picture out long enough based on the progress that you see them making from the care that's been provided. I've actually had to tell patients, you know what, you're going to get better. It might take us a year or two to get you there, but you're going to get there. Because someone who's been suffering with something for a decade or decade and a half, you know what? A year is a reasonable amount of time to go through the relief, correction, and strengthening and maintenance phases to get them there and then keep them there. And the fifth mistake that I often hear doctors make, both chiropractors and medical doctors, as well as optometrists, dentists, and podiatrists, it seems like all doctors do this from time to time, is they speak poorly of other healthcare providers. I'll bet everybody listening to this podcast has had the experience where some medical doctor spoke poorly about chiropractic or a specific chiropractor. How often do the chiropractors speak poorly of medical doctors or other chiropractors down the street? I don't think you should ever say anything negative about another healthcare provider. I love when patients say to me, well, why would my doctor tell me that? I say, well, I don't know why your doctor told you that, but based on these lab results that I'm reviewing with you that they had ordered, here's what I see. In fact, that's a great question. You could go back and ask them why they said that. I'm sure they had a good reason, but I can't speak for them. I don't know why they would have said that. You don't have to go back and ask them because it's clearly A, B, and C, not D, E, and F. Or what about when a patient comes to see you who has seen another chiropractor and they just can't wait to tell you the horrible experience that they had and what happened in that office, and now they came to see you because their spouse or a friend, one of your other patients said, oh my God, you got to go see my doc. They're so much better than this other person. And most often, not always, but most often, that patient wants to tell you about that experience that they had. Oh, that doctor felt like a used car salesman. Oh, that doctor seemed like they just wanted me to keep coming. Oh, that doctor seemed like they didn't care. They kept me waiting. I sometimes had to sit and wait an hour in their office just to get seen. Whatever their excuse is, listen. And then what I always do is I'll simply say, on behalf of the entire profession, I apologize for the experience that you had in that doctor's office. And you know what? They always say thank you. They're happy that you listened. They're happy that they received an apology. You didn't do anything wrong, but it is a member of our profession who did that. Sometimes the patient will tell me that, and it's not even a member of our profession. Oh, my medical doctor said A, B, and C. Or, you know what? I had a nurse do this to me. I had the phlebotomist do that to me. Wow, you know what? On behalf of the entire healthcare profession, I'm really sorry you had that experience. And I'm going to do my best to make sure that never happens to you in our office. And they're always appreciative of it. Now, the sixth common mistake takes a little bit more talking to really flesh it out. It's the whole missed appointment piece. What do you do when you have a patient who's missed an appointment, they blew an appointment off, they're off the treatment schedule that you had recommended for them, the adjusting schedule you had recommended for them? What do you do? There's only two approaches, and both are wrought with technicalities and difficulties. Either, at one extreme, you completely ignore the missed appointment and just go on as if nothing happened and nothing was missed, and the patient begins to think, I guess it's okay if I miss an appointment. It's not that big a deal. And at the other extreme, you give them a nosebleed lecture about how missing an appointment is going to bring them one step closer to death. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but how horrible it is and they can't ever do that. Both are wrought with difficulties. So let's talk this one out. I think completely ignoring it is a problem because, again, they think it's okay if I missed an appointment. It's no big deal. And obviously, lecturing them is a problem as well. So how do we walk the middle ground? When you see somebody has missed an appointment, in some way, shape, or form, it should show up with you when you're in the adjusting room with the person. Whether it's when you're glancing at their chart, at a travel card, you're looking at the computer, perhaps it lights up red, and you can look at the person and simply say, oh, hey, I see you missed Monday's visit. Was everything okay? You're showing you care about the person, not just their chiropractic. And either they'll say, I got busy at work, I had an issue with the kids, I just plain forgot, doc. Whatever it is, acknowledge that appropriately. Oh, what's going on with work? Oh, is everything okay with the kid? Wow, you must be starting to feel better that you just plain forgot. I'm glad you're feeling better. And then it's time to apply your clinical expertise and your ability to read people and your relationship with the person. Perhaps you have a conversation with them right then and there of, okay, well, it's important that you make up that visit so you get your 3 visits in this week or your 2 visits in this week, whatever it may be. So we stay on your adjusting schedule so you get better on schedule. Or perhaps you say, well, go ahead and lay down. Let me see what's going on. And then you can apply your clinical knowledge, assessing the patient appropriately, doing the appropriate adjustments, and then when they sit back up or stand back up, you can have a conversation with them based on what I saw today. I know we missed that visit on Monday, and then apply your sharp clinical edge. Is there an issue because they missed that visit? Is the muscle tone dramatically different from what it should be, from what you would hope it would be, from what you would expect it to be? And if so, tell them and invite them to make that appointment up later in the week. I know you're already scheduled for Friday. Would it be possible for you to be here tomorrow? Doing those 3 visits in a row would really get us back on track and help really spring you forward in a really positive way. And see what they say. Very often, that one is the scariest one for younger or less experienced doctors. Confronting the patient about that missed appointment. I'm afraid they'll get mad at me. By the way, that's the same thing that I hear about doctors when they're afraid to talk about money with patients. I'm afraid they'll get mad at me. People know things do cost money, and deep down people do know they need a certain amount of adjustments in order to get better once they understand the problem. So discussing that schedule with them in a proper, respectful way should put that issue to bed. And now we've reached The seventh common thing that we chiropractors do that patients don't like, get upset about, and give our profession such a bad reputation sometimes. Are you ready? The number one biggest mistake that I think we chiropractors make is we surprise the patient with the adjustment. We don't fully explain what we're going to do. We just sneak up and crack their neck. Oh my God, I hate that. I hope you hate it also. How about you tell the person, oh, well, just wiggle your toes, and bam, you go in and do the adjustment. So many chiropractors that I know, have known, and have spoken to over so many years think they need to sneak in on the patient to get the adjustment done because they can't seem to get in to do it otherwise. I'm going to share with you a secret that so few chiropractors know that works incredibly beautifully. And instead of surprising the patient, you're working with the patient. So let's pretend we're talking about a cervical adjustment. The person is laying on their back, and you need to adjust them with their head turning towards the right side. So most chiropractors will say wiggle your toes or tap your fingers or something like that, or they're in the middle of talking, they'll just stop and do the adjustment and surprise the person. But instead, what if you chose to work with the patient? And what I mean by that is you palpate their neck and you say, okay, here, now turn to the right. And as they're turning to the right, adjust with them. They're activating the muscles to go that way already. You're not surprising them. They're not fighting you. You do the adjustment. It's so easier than even when you sneak up on them. And then it moves beautifully. Have them turn the other way. If you're going to do both sides, you want to do that left side. Okay, now turn to the left. Okay, let me palpate. Okay, I feel that spot right there. Turn a little bit further to the left. And as they're turning, you do the adjustment. Again, they're not surprised. They know it's coming, and they're relaxed. It's a secret. Let's tell all the other chiropractors about it. Let's tell everybody so nobody ever says the doctor snuck up on me and cracked my neck. And that finishes out this episode of the show. Again, be sure to tune in next week for the 52nd show, which is going to be extra special. And I look forward to speaking to you then. All right, and that's our show for today. If you have a question about today's show or your own practice, feel free to reach out at fortheloveofchiropractic.com. Before making changes to your practice, be sure to seek legal advice regarding those changes and regulations in your state. For the Love of Chiropractic is an RGF production, all rights reserved. And thanks for listening. Original music provided by Hunter Rich Music.